I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's my fault.
Luckily, it wasn't a slime live.
Oh, well.
Hello, welcome to the first book club of the day. Okay, so yeah, long time no see. That's right. I'm not gonna lie. The iron thing works way better in pasta sauce than it does in smoothies. Have you tried the smoothie?
Is it bad?
It's not great.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna drink it anyway because I know it's good for me, but it's gonna be a struggle. Can you taste it?
Yes.
Yes. He goes, yes.
But it tastes irony, so that's good.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely irony.
Here, how about this? I have an idea.
Tell me the idea.
I'm gonna drink a little bit of mine.
Oh no, it's alright. I'm gonna drink it.
No, I'm just gonna mix in a fruit to like hide it more.
Oh, if you want to.
Yeah, I'll do that.
You think so?
Because
you
I know
don't
you're
have
not
to.
gonna drink it.
I'm gonna drink it.
Are
I'm
you
gonna
really
force
gonna
myself to drink
Okay.
it. Yeah. Do you have any food aversions? Liver has iron in it. I can't with liver.
She has food aversions.
I do. I have food aversions.
We have been trying to eat our way to this, and it has not worked. Sasha just doesn't eat enough to make that happen.
I made peanut butter and banana smoothie this morning. That would taste really good. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
The goal would be the iron infusion, and then just more iron in the diet to keep it up for as long as possible.
Yeah, I will look into it. I will call my provider. Even cutting liver for my dogs is the worst. Why do you have to cut liver for your dogs? Just because it's good for them? We are eating tons of spinach, Kristen. Yeah. Yeah. I apparently am just not efficient enough at eating things that have iron in them.
Tons. We're just having it in the morning with a smoothie.
Yeah. It's super good for dogs. It's hard to get back without medical intervention. It is, yeah. That's what my mom was saying. My mom was like, basically, once it's that low, like, you have to get back to it with medical intervention, then you can maintain it with food. Yeah. I'm too efficient at eating things. That's funny, Anya. All right, so good morning. Hello. There are a lot of you on here randomly. Iron pills make you sick? Yeah, iron pills make a lot of people sick, apparently.
Yeah.
Not
good for you.
I do. I need the infusions. My numbers are on the sad side. Let's read. There's a lot of people in this book club right now. That's random. Hello, all of you. We're reading. This is not slime. So if you don't like books, this isn't for you. If you like books, feel free to stay. That's funny, Becca. I know, right, Brittany? Once I start reading, they'll leave. Yeah, I think so. It's Tuesday. Go to work, everyone. Yeah, why is everyone not at work? What? Everybody who's seeing this live right now, answer. How did you get here?
What do you mean?
There's an inordinate amount of people for a book club live.
Isn't it just like everybody that's subscribed to you just gets notified when you're live, whether it's a slime one or a book
Yeah,
club?
but it's like people who aren't subscribed.
Maybe you're on the For You page.
With a book club live? I'm in the UK, so it's 5:30. Oh. All right. It's a snow day. That's what it is. It's a snow day. Joe Rogan sent you? Oh, no.
Bro Jogan?
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's bad. Oh, no. Oh, no. I don't think he'd like me very much.
He's an idiot, but, he's pretty harmless.
All right. It's flash flood over. Oh, so a lot of people are out of school and work because of weather issues. I see. Okay.
Flash flood?
There's flash flooding in the south. There's... you almost made Becca choke when you said bro joking. She inhaled and food went down the wrong. There's a tornado warning. There's a snowstorm and a flash flood. So everyone is home. Wow. Okay, that makes sense. See, that's all I needed to know. I was just asking why everyone was suddenly here, and it's because everyone is off of work or school because of weather. So we're all gonna die, is what I'm hearing.
It's very pleasant outside in Los Angeles.
Severe weather warning with severe eastern shore. Yikes. All right, well, let's read. We're on chapter 6. We are reading Land of Stories, book 5. Liz said, rub it in, why don't you? Because she is in the middle of a snowstorm. Yeah, that is a pretty bad feeling. Choking on a chip that's very sharp. Yeah, not great. All right, well, we're going to read, so it's all good. A bewitching offer. The masked man was awoken by a throbbing in his headache. Wait, what? A throbbing headache. Sorry, I can't read apparently. Wow, great start. But we thought the masked man was dead. He's apparently not dead because he was awoken by a throbbing headache. Bummer. He opened his eyes and discovered he was somewhere in the forest, but he had no recollection of how he had gotten there. Even stranger, when he looked around, he noticed the ground above his head and the smoky sky was below his feet. After further inspection, he realized he was upside down. His cape was caught on a tree branch and he was hanging several feet in the air. As he slowly returned to full consciousness, the masked man remembered that the flying monkeys had dropped him there. Becca goes, maybe Giles will find him. He wasn't sure how long he'd been hanging in the tree, but since he was still alive, he assumed his cape must have broken his fall. He reached towards the branch, piercing his cape to set himself free. The motion sent excruciating pain through his entire body, and he screamed. The pain was so bad that he couldn't tell where it began or ended. Clearly, he had hit more than one branch on his way down. The masked man tugged on his cape and ripped it in half. He fell to the ground and landed on his back with a thud. After a few minutes of lying on the ground, the masked man had a better idea of where the pain was coming from. His left arm was definitely broken, and one of his right ribs was most likely cracked, and his right ankle sprained at best. Half his mask had been ripped off by something he collided with during the fall, and bloody scratches covered one side of his face. Still, it was a miracle that he had survived. He moaned as he struggled to his feet, and all the blood in his head rushed to the other parts of his body, making him woozy. He removed his damaged cape and ripped his suit jacket into stripes to make a sling for his arm. The physical pain was unbearable, but he was almost thankful for it. It was the only thing distracting him from his mental anguish. The masked man was not a stranger to disappointment, but losing an empire was one colossal setback he never saw coming. After a lifetime of meticulous planning, he had finally achieved the power that he had craved ever since childhood, only to then have it yanked away like a rug from underneath him. After such a narrow escape from death, a different man would have abandoned his quest for supremacy, but the masked man's need for power was like a disease, and fulfillment was the only cure. I'm not sure I know what you're talking about, Becca, but text me and we can talk about it when the live's over, because I don't know what you're talking about. Like a phoenix, he immediately began calculating his path out of the ashes. Somehow, some way, he would reclaim his power and he would destroy the literary villains who had taken it from him. But first, he needed to find a path out of the forest. The masked man had no idea what part of the forest he had been dropped in, so he hobbled through the trees in search of an indication. After hours of limping aimlessly through the woods, he only found more and more trees the further he went. Since the mythological creature had escaped in the Northern Palace dungeon, the masked man was cautious and as quiet as possible, just in case it was also wandering the forest. Eventually, he stumbled upon a small clearing with 3 unusual boulders. They were tall and stuck out from the ground like trees themselves. The masked man had sat against one of the boulders and tightened his makeshift sling, but his rest was short-lived. A commotion traveled through the woods nearby. The sound became louder and louder as it moved closer and closer. It was a repetitive tremor, like the march of several pairs of boots. Winky soldiers were approaching. The masked man assumed the villains must have sent the soldiers to retrieve his body.
He was too wounded to outrun them, so he dived into the bushes beside the boulder to be hidden from view. A few moments later, 2 rows of a dozen Winky soldiers entered the clearing, but they weren't alone. The soldiers were escorting the Wicked Witch of the West, the Queen of Hearts, and Captain Hook through the forest. The sight of the literary villain sent rage through the masked man that was so powerful his injuries were temporarily numbed. There wasn't a word in existence to describe the anger coursing through his veins. The Wicked Witch of the West, the Queen of Hearts, and Captain Hook paced around the clearing like they were waiting for something to happen. They didn't appear to be looking for the masked man, so he wondered what on earth they were doing in the woods. "Well," Captain Hook growled, "where is she?" "Are we certain we're in the right place?" the Queen of Hearts asked. The Wicked Witch of the West unscrolled the scroll of parchment she held tightly in her hands. "I'm positive," the Wicked Witch said. "Her instructions said, take the path 4 miles into Dwarf Forest and wait for me in the clearing of 3 stone trees. There hasn't been another clearing for miles. This must be it." As the masked men knew all too well, patience was not the villain's forte. The Wicked Witch, the Queen of Hearts, and Captain Hook became more restless by the second. "Well, whoever she is, I don't like her," Captain Hook snarled. "She has some nerve to keep us waiting like this." "I want to hear what she's offering," the Queen of Hearts said. "But if it isn't appealing and we've come all this way, I say we capture her and cut off her head," the Wicked Witch said mockingly. "There are other ways to execute someone you know, most of which are more entertaining and far less messy." "Like dropping the masked man on his head to his death?" Captain Hook said with a nasty grin. "Watching him squirm and scream as he fell was rather fun, wasn't it? If only gravity affected everyone, my Hook would be covered in Peter Pan's blood by now." The Queen of Hearts rolled her eyes. "I'm so sick of hearing that boy's name," she hollered. "He's a child, Captain. Let it go. From the way you obsessively talk about him, I'd say he's taken much more than just your hand." Captain Hook intended to respond with a snippy comment, but the pirate went quiet. He leaned against one of the boulders and placed his hook on his hip, thinking about what the Queen of Hearts had just said. From the bushes just beside the Captain Hook, the masked man had a perfect view of a revolver dangling from the captain's belt. He was drawn to the weapon like a moth to a flame. If he got his hands on it, with 3 quick shots, he could terminate the literary villains before the Winky soldiers knew what was happening. Carefully, when they were all looking in the opposite direction, the masked man reached his good hand towards the captain's waist and unfastened his holster. It was a painful effort with his cracked rib, and it took everything in him not to scream. Slowly, he removed the revolver from the holster, and the captain was none the wiser. The masked man examined the gun. It had 3 bullets. It had exactly what he needed to shoot the villains. He cocked it and aimed the weapon back and forth at the 3 of them, indecisive about which of them to kill first. Captain Hook became agitated and started stomping around the clearing. "I knew it was a trick," he said in a huff. "We've been fooled. No one is meeting us in the woods today." The Queen of Hearts and the Wicked Witch nodded in agreement, but just as they were about to order the soldiers to take them back, they were interrupted by a voice from outside the clearing. "Haven't you heard? Good things come to those who wait." The masked man lowered the revolver when he heard the voice. It sounded awfully familiar. The villains and the Winky soldiers heard footsteps next and quickly turned to see a hooded creature approaching them. The soldiers raised their staffs towards the creature, but with a flick of its wrist, the weapons crumbled into dirt. The creature stepped into the clearing and lowered its hood. It was a beautiful woman with horns like a ram's that curled around the sides of her face. "Marina," the masked man whispered to himself. His desire to assassinate the villains was quickly replaced by curiosity. What did she want with them? "Are you the witch they call Marina?" the Wicked Witch of the West asked. "I am," Marina said, "and you must be the new leaders of this world. It's an honor to make your acquaintance. Defeating the kingdoms of humans and fairies is no easy task, and you've achieved what the witches have only dreamed of for centuries." The villain shared a proud look and stood a little taller. "Since you're here, I'm assuming you've received my letter?" Marina asked. "It's not every day we receive an invitation that has been delivered by a crow," the Queen of Hearts said. Now tell us, what is it this offer of a lifetime is that you wrote about? It requires a lengthy explanation, Marina said. Please, have a seat. The witch waved her hand toward the 3 boulders, and they transformed into 3 large stone chairs for the villains to sit on. So far, this witch was very impressive. You see, the witches of this world have always had a long and unpleasant history with the people who have ruled it, Marina explained. Before you arrived, there were rumors of an impending witch hunt. Those fears were all but confirmed when the masked man became emperor. We were certain that once he executed the royal families, it would be only a matter of time before he ordered our extermination. But luckily, that's all changed now that you've taken his place. If the masked man saw the witches as a threat, why should we view things any differently? Captain Hook asked. Because the 3 of you are much wiser than your predecessors, Marina said. Why become enemies when you could have the glorious opportunity to become allies? The villains side-eyed one another. They weren't pleased with the conversation and the way it was going. For your sake, I hope you're offering us more than friendship, the Queen of Hearts warned. Marina smiled and her eyes grew wide. They could tell friendship was only the beginning of what she had to offer. Of course. I'll cut to the chase, she said. Recently, I convinced other witches that the only way we could escape the pending genocide was by leaving this world. We need a place to ourselves where we won't be controlled by fairies or ostracized by humans. So I formed a plan for the witches to invade and conquer another dimension, one known as the Other World. The villains were instantly intrigued. The Other World? They asked in unison. It's a world very similar to this one, but far greater, Marina explained. It has hundreds of countries, thousands of cities, and billions of people. There are structures and machines that you could only dream of, more land and sea than we would ever need. The best part is that this world operates entirely without magic, with no fairies to limit us. We would be unstoppable. Her passionate description was hypnotizing. Still, the villains wondered if it was too good to be true. How can you prove it exists? Captain Hook asked. Take a look for yourself, Marina said. The witch's eyes suddenly lit up like the headlights of a car. Marina magically transferred images of the other world into the villain's mind, and their eyes glowed as brightly as hers. Visions of London, Paris, Tokyo, and New York City flashed before their eyes. They saw the Eiffel Tower, the pyramids of Giza, and the walls of China, the Great Wall of China, the Golden Gate Bridge, and the Taj Mahal. What just happened? You muted Anya? Why? I think it was an accident. I think it was an accident. That was pretty funny. I tried to reply and it hit me at that's funny. How do we get to this other world? The Wicked Witch asked. The late fairy godmother has portals hidden all over the kingdoms, Marina said, but each one is difficult to open and the journey takes a toll on anyone who is not a practitioner of white magic. Then how do the witches expect to cross over? The Queen of Hearts asked. Well, as luck would have it, the 2 worlds are scheduled to collide very soon, Marina said. A doorway will open that will bridge the worlds like never before. Once it appears, we can charge into the other world and take it by storm. The villain's suspicion grew as much as their interest. You seem to have it all figured out, Captain Hook said. What exactly do the witches want from us? A devious smile grew on Marina's face. This was the part she was most excited to tell them. Well, the witches don't want anything from you, she said. Then why do they want to become allies? Captain Hook asked. You misheard me, Captain, Marina said. The witches don't even know I'm here. I was speaking for myself when I proposed an alliance. The villains shared a look, each more confused than the other. Marina waved a hand over the dirt, and a 4th boulder shot up from the ground. She transformed it into a large stone throne, much taller than the villains' chairs, and she had a seat. Very funny. I had every intention of leading the witches into the other world, Marina explained. Sadly, that leadership was stolen from me. 2 witches with seniority, the Snow Queen and the Sea Witch, have taken this opportunity into their own clammy hands. But my frustration has taught me a valuable lesson. Witches are not like wolves. We don't belong in packs. Once we cross into the other world, we'll fight one another for dominance, and there's only one of us until there's only one of us left. So I began a new plan for after the witches conquer the other world. The villains shared a smile. Marina's plan was starting to make sense, and they liked where it was going. You're going to betray them? The Wicked Witch said eagerly. Precisely, Marina said. The Snow Queen and the Sea Witch plan to cast a spell on the late fairy godmother's granddaughter, a powerful young fairy named Alex. They believe if they curse her strongly enough, they'll be able to turn the girl into a weapon and use her to vanquish the other world. I'm not convinced that this will work. I believe there are more traditional ways of invading a new territory. You want our army, the Queen of Hearts said. Marina clapped her hands excitedly. Exactly, she said. I say, let's let the witches be our pawns. Let them invade the other world and defend and weaken its defenses. Once they've exhausted all their resources, we'll charge into the other world and steal it from them. We'll destroy Alex and the witches and whatever is left standing in our way. It was the most thrilling and lucrative offer the villains had ever received. They were all fidgeting in their seats, and they thought of the conquest. However, they still didn't know if Marina could be trusted. How do we know you won't betray us in the end, too? Captain Hook asked. We've already been deceived. We've already been deceived by someone in this world. We won't let it happen again, the Wicked Witch said. Unlike the masked man, I don't bite off more than I can chew, Marina said. We'll divide the other world evenly among us. We'll each have our own territory twice the size of this world. Surely that's more than enough land for each of us. Time is of the essence. So if you're not interested, I need to know now. Do we have a deal or not? The villains huddled together to discuss the situation privately, but Marina could tell that they had already made up their minds. They were creatures of greed, and they couldn't refuse. We have a deal, Captain Hook said, but if you disappoint us, we'll end you just like we ended the masked man. Marina laughed loudly. You think you killed the masked man? She asked. Of course we killed him, the Queen of Hearts said. No man could survive that fall. Yes, but the masked man isn't just a man. He's a roach, Marina said sharply. Even if you cut off his head, he'd be back the very second the throne was left unattended. We haven't seen the last of him, but don't worry. I have something that will bring him to his knees, should he ever try to sabotage our plan. And what's that? The Wicked Witch asked. The villains were curious, but not nearly as curious as the masked man himself. He had few possessions, but which had the witch stolen? Not what, but who, Marina said. I've kidnapped his son, a boy named Emmerich. The masked man has a child? Captain Hook asked. Not one that he knows about, Marina said, but should he ever cross us, the boy will stop him in his tracks. The masked man was so shocked he dropped the revolver. He no longer felt any of his injuries or the anger boiling inside him. He forgot all about losing his empire and his desire to kill the villains. All he could feel was adrenaline and his heartbeat. All he could think about was the son he never knew he had. I should return to the witches before they get suspicious, Marina said. The witch stood from her stone throne, and with a snap of her fingers, the boulders all returned to normal. The villains were buzzing with anticipation. If they could invade the other world today, they wouldn't hesitate. When will the invasion take place? The Queen of Hearts asked. We want our soldiers to be prepared. It won't be long now, Marina said. When the time is right, we'll strike, and I'll be in touch. The witch covered her horns with her hood and disappeared into the trees. The villains ordered the Winky soldiers to escort them out of the woods and practically skipped back to the northern palace. The masked man was still so astonished, he stayed in the bushes long after the villains were gone. Having a son presented the world of opportunities he never thought possible. If he played his cards right, the masked man could regain much more than just an empire. He could salvage everything that had been stolen from him. How's that? How? I don't really understand. What would having a son do for him that not having a son wouldn't do for him? It's not like he cares about a line of succession. I'm confused. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting.
Maybe there's some power in it for him. Yeah, maybe. Very funny. Very funny. Mysteries abound. So I totally forgot to post this earlier, but we're supposed to have an After Dark live tonight, so I'm going to post about that right now so people can sign up for their After Dark spots. But we will have After Dark tonight. It's Tuesday and After Dark night. So we'll have that. Maybe, Julia, I really don't know. The different voices you read in scratch an itch in my brain. Aw, thank you, Maddie. That's so sweet. I love that. If you like these voices, you should definitely go back and listen to the book before this one, because there were all amazing voices in book 4. Book 4 was riddled with great characters. After Dark, and I promise I'm going to take her to class, UJ. Oh, Anya, there'll be another After Dark next week. So don't skip something that you were going to do just for this. There'll be another one. Mother Goose is amazing. Robin Hood's amazing. I think Peter Pan was pretty good too. Anyway, I'm going to go. I've got a lot of work to do. I'll see you all at After Dark. And I hope that you miss Robin Hood. I think everybody misses Robin Hood. Oh, no. Sorry, Jen. I meant the last Land of Stories book. Yes, we're all a fan of Mother Goose. Yeah, you should go listen to Land of Stories book 4. That's where all the voices are. The last book doesn't have any voices in it. The last book we read was Key Ridge, and it takes place in our world, and there weren't very many voices in that. This series has characters that lend themselves to voices. Gives me an opportunity to hone my acting chops every while. Anyway, I'll see you all later. I hope you're all good, and that's it. All right, bye, guys.